By show of hands, how many of you have consulted Dr. Google when you've received a diagnosis or when you're trying to diagnose yourself? Right, okay. Sometimes it's great. Dr. Google will let you know that your appendage will not fall off and you don't actually have a flesh-eating bacteria. So now by a show of hands, how many of you have sought out a medical opinion and then shared it with your doctor? Even when what you read is the exact opposite of the doctor's opinion. Doctors just love when their patients become experts from their online education. It's kind of like someone telling me they went on the internet, got ordained as some kind of priest, so they can officiate at their best friend's wedding. I tell them it must be nice. It took me 9 years of higher education, blood, sweat, and tears to be able to officiate at weddings. For me, I have not attempted to become a doctor through WebMD, but since January 2nd, 2020, I have been attempting to become a Talmud scholar. On New Year's Day, 90,000 men filled MetLife Stadium to celebrate what is called Siyum Hashas, the completion of the 7.5-year cycle of reading the entire Talmud. If you read one page a day, and it's in folios, so it's side A and side B, then it will take you 7.5 years. The daily reading is called Daf Yomi, today's page. For those of you who are wondering what the Talmud is, here's a quick standing on one foot definition. The Talmud is the record of the arguments of the ancient rabbis. It's written in Aramaic, of course, because that's what they spoke and Hebrew would have made it much easier. The rabbis' arguments are over pieces of law first plucked from the Torah, then organized in the Mishnah, the first attempt at codification of Jewish law. The arguments are difficult to understand. Many refer to the Talmud as pilpul, mental gymnastics. The second point on my syllabus for my Talmud class in my third year of rabbinical school said this: do not panic. Do not run out of this room screaming. You will get through this class. Every rabbi you know got through this class, and not all of them were geniuses. This is what you face when you're studying Talmud. This is the Hebrew side. This is the glorious English side. And if you ever want to see some, we have a beautiful set, but there's like a little sticker on here that says, do not take from this room. So don't take it out of the library. Basically, the Talmud is the height of Jewish tradition. Argument for the sake of argument. Argument for the sake of creating new law. Argument for the sake of maintaining a connection to our past teachers and to the ones who will come after us. Though the Talmud was officially completed a long time ago, the discussion continues, and everyone who loves a little mental gymnastics is encouraged to join in. So perhaps now you might have a greater appreciation as to why 90,000 people would gather to celebrate. This is a big deal. But what is perhaps an even bigger deal is the second gathering that took place on the same day. For the first time in history, a Siyum Hashas was held for women who had completed this monumental achievement. Over 3,000 women gathered in Jerusalem to celebrate. Jewish women have been openly studying and teaching for hundreds of years, but their efforts were second to their duties caring for home and children. Also, most women didn't study Talmud. That was for men. The second gathering was groundbreaking and historical. For the first time, women celebrated this incredible achievement just as men did. And for this rabbi, and for my daughter, and for all women, that is a big deal. Excuse me. The best part about learning the Talmud and the cycle of studying it is, what do you think happened on January 3rd, the day after Siyum Hashas? They started all over again. We're over a week into the new cycle, and I am all about it. I'm listening to podcasts, reading summaries, and getting my Talmud fill every day. One of the rabbis I follow on Twitter gives a summary that I just love. Here is her summary of Brachot, page 8. God loves people who study, act, and pray, go to shul, get a bride. There are 903 kinds of death. God loves people who love the law. Don't leave during the Torah service. Don't sit on the bed of a strange woman, and you can say Shema until dawn. Anyone totally lost? Well, I But that's the beauty of Talmud. The arguments of the rabbis are as tangential and meandering as a conversation with your spouse or best friend. Have you ever looked at someone and said, "How did we start talking about this?" That's the Talmud. One minute you're talking about Passover, and the next minute you're hearing that Moses saw God's tefillin. Okay. Let's just say the Talmud has a lot of moving parts. It is a debate and stories, law and metaphor. It's beautiful and maddening, and I love it. And I'm so excited to be part of the next cycle. But please don't run after me in services and say, "Please teach a Talmud class. I'll see you in 7.5 years, maybe 15. For me, the inspiration comes from starting over. For centuries as Jews, we have pored over the same text over and over and over and over, and you would think by now we had gleaned everything there was to glean. How could we possibly learn anything new after a millennia of study and commentary? But the answer is simple. There's always something new to learn. The conversation remains open, and not just to those who celebrated in MetLife Stadium or the women's gathering in Jerusalem. The internet has done an incredible thing that perhaps has never been done before, ever. It has democratized Jewish learning. I admit that when I became a third-year rabbinical student, I knew Talmud was coming, and I knew it was appropriate to be nervous. Even with the translation available, it's still very intimidating. But you can be proud, I didn't run a race screaming. But now, every day, I am learning a new page of Talmud as I drive from here to there. I'm listening to a podcast of Rabbanit Michelle Cohen-Farber, who does a session every day on the page of the day, the Daf Yomi, the page of the day. Sometimes I'm right there with her. I'm understanding the Hebrew and the basic argument. I'm so excited. I'm like, yes. Other times I find myself yelling at her as though she can hear me. Slow down, speak English. A lot of times that is when she's speaking English. So if you ever pull up next to me and I am having a fit, I'm fine. I'm learning Talmud. And as I said before, I will not be a Torah scholar after 7.5 years. I have no doubt I am going to fall behind. But what this podcast has done is open the gates of the Talmud like they've never been opened before. Talmud is no longer just the purview of men. It's no longer the purview of those who choose to become scholars. Talmud, for perhaps the first time ever, is for all of us. So often I struggle with finding the right words to describe Reform Jews in contrast to our Orthodox brethren. I don't like to say that Orthodox Jews are more traditional because I consider myself traditional. I also don't like describing them as observant because I consider myself observant. The key is that traditions are not just those that have existed for all times and done because they've existed for all time. Rather, I choose the traditions that are meaningful to me and heighten my awareness of the blessings in life and the presence of God, which is to say, I am observant, I just observe in a different way. This is not Judaism light. I grind my teeth when people tell me that Reform Judaism is Judaism light. It's not. We learn the same text as every other Jew, and perhaps the pinnacle text is in fact the Talmud. What I'm trying to convey is that Jewish tradition, ritual, and even the Talmud belongs to all of us, no matter what our knowledge level or our daily practice. You can approach it with a desire to enhance your own observance or as an alternative to crosswords and Sudoku. Trust me, it will twist your brain more than both of them combined. I'll never forget the moment I shared with a woman in our congregation. She was well into her 80s, bent over from age, with beautiful blue eyes. I can't remember if I was teaching about the Torah itself or how it is put together, or the Torah portion of the week. It really doesn't matter. On that particular morning, I took out the Torah and had everyone come to check it out. This woman's blue eyes were wide as saucers, and she was embarrassed that she said she was going to cry. I saw this all happening, and I asked her if she was all right. She said that she had never been that close to a Torah in her entire life. She found its beauty so overwhelming that she was crying. Just being in proximity to the Torah moved her to tears. From that day on, I have never taken for granted that I have constant and easy access to the Torah, to over a dozen of them, as a matter of fact. I guess this is how I am feeling now about the Talmud. It finally feels more approachable to me. It finally feels like all Jews are being invited to walk through the gates, find a study partner, and join the conversation that started thousands of years ago. And best of all, and most importantly, please know our voices are just important as anyone else's. If Talmud isn't your jam, that's totally cool for me. Find whatever your equivalent is to a 7.5-year project. Don't try to become an internet doctor. That's not what we're shooting for here. If you have an interest in medicine, learn biology. If you have an interest in nature, learn botany. This is a call to learn what you always wanted to learn, but you didn't think you had the access to it. No matter what you choose, know that you are engaging in Torah Lishma, learning for learning's sake. But also know that if it makes you happy or more fulfilled or moved to tears, you are also learning for God's sake. Let me know what you pick. Shabbat Shalom.